Hello, everybody in podcast land. I'm Dr. Ted Thatchencary, and this is MD Roundtable, a podcast about collaborating and learning from other healthcare professionals from all over the globe. We are all so much more connected due to technology. We have so much to learn from each other. Thanks for joining us today at MD Roundtable. This is a very special episode as we are featuring Dr. Edda Weimann, who is a pediatric endocrinologist and specializes in international health systems. She is a professor of child and planetary health in Munich. She is also a hospital CEO, an author, and an honorary professor of digital health at the University of Cape Town, South Africa. Welcome to MD Roundtable, Edda.
Thank you, Ted. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. Edda, you are a very unique individual and you bring a very different perspective to healthcare. I see you have roots in both South Africa and Germany. Edda, where did you grow up?
Thanks very much. Yeah, first of all, for the interest and the interest in the topic, because it's still a very niche topic. So I grew up in Germany and spent my childhood there and also went there to medical school after matric.
Great. Where did you go to med school, Edda?
So I went to different med schools because I was a little bit fascinated to view different universities and experience different universities. So I went to some universities in Germany and Austria and finished my degree, my state exam in Munich at the university there.
I see. So most of your medical training was done in Germany itself.
That's correct, yeah.
Great. What made you interested in going into pediatrics?
Yeah, I'm still fascinated by that because I was always intrigued that children are quite vulnerable groups and they are so dependent on their caretakers, on their parents and how they grow up. So in a way, since I really started medicine or even before I applied to study medicine, I was always interested to become a pediatrician. So that was not really becoming a medical doctor. It was always about pediatrics.
I see. And then you also went into specialty, it looks like endocrinology, right?
Exactly. Because, yeah, endocrinology also fascinated me because it was so difficult to understand. I think it was the most difficult subject that was available, and it had so many pathways. And yeah, it was so tricky to understand how it works. And yeah, that was a reason, in a way, also challenged to become an endocrinologist. Yeah.
Great. Edda, so you wear a lot of different hats. So you went from pediatrics, you specialize in endocrinology. Tell me, how did you get interested in this term called planetary health?
So after my medical training, I did an MPH, Master of Public Health, at the University of Cape Town. And that was at the time when planetary health was emerging and introduced as a subject on the global scale, and was done by the Rockefeller Foundation and Lancet Commission, as we know, and it also happened around 2014-15, just before the Paris Agreement. Yeah, and interestingly, Cape Town is quite an interesting place and quite innovative place. And the university thought to introduce planetary health into the curriculum of medical students. So we were asked to teach planetary health here at the university. So in a way, I think we were one of the first universities that was really teaching and starting planetary health in the medical curriculum.
It's very intriguing, Edda. I mean, this is why I love talking to different physicians from all over the world because, in the West, it's kind of a foreign term for us. We just don't get any training, at least when I did residency and training, this whole topic of planetary health and how it affects us, on a daily basis. So I'd really like to dig in and kind of learn more about what planetary health is. I read recently that the UN chief, Guterres, said that we are on a highway to climate hell. Can you sort of explain how climate change impacts our overall health?
Yeah, I think it really derives from the idea that we are separated from planet, yeah, and from our environment. So we feel as a specific species that can exploit the earth and the soil and the environment and the air, and we are not dependent on it. And I think that's a unique thing that, for example, Planetary Health tries to teach us that we are one system and we are part of one system, one health system. And I think Antonio Guterres, just highlighted very clearly the pathway we and the highway we are on to climate health. And it summarizes in a way the IPCC reports. These are the reports by international scientists that are published at least once a year to tell us where we are heading to. And currently, our pathway is to an average temperature increase about 4 to 5 to 6 or even 4 degrees. And that's really not in line with, in a way, we are creating an inhabitable planet. And that also means a lot of disasters that we are even currently experiencing, for example, with all the hurricanes, the storm, the typhoons, all the climate disasters that are happening every minute worldwide. And the frequency is just increasing, and that also brings a lot of disparities and increases disparities, and also induces migration worldwide and a lot of conflicts as well, conflicts for resources, conflicts for water, for food, for nutrition. Yeah, and that's the picture of the climate hell we are heading towards.
Very interesting, Edda. Yeah. Are there certain regions or countries that are more affected than others?
Well, we are all in one boat and sitting in one boat and trying to navigate it. There are definitely areas and regions that are more affected, especially also, for example, Africa. Africa in general contributed very little to climate change and the climate crisis, and huge burden definitely regarding health and climate disasters, but also the Asian region also gets a lot of rainfalls, but also highly developed countries or high income countries like the United States. You could also and can regularly experience more floods and storms and hurricanes there. For example, Canada also experiences wildfires, huge wildfires, as well as Australia. So in a way, it's everywhere, and there are definitely hotspots, and these hotspots are growing every year.
Yeah, very intriguing. Is there a certain aspect or specialty of planetary health that you sort of focus on and et cetera?
Yeah, I think I'm really interested, well, definitely in the One Health approach that we have to start more with system thinking and also bringing different disciplines into our different curricula. So it's not just medicine. I think we have to teach law in a different way. We have to teach economics in a different way. We have to teach agriculture, nutrition in a very different way, and do it more in an interdisciplinary approach so that we do not work any longer in our silos and in our clouds, yeah, but really reach out to other disciplines and collaborate with them. I think that's my main focus and my main interest.
That's wonderful, Edda. This episode is brought to you by Primal Steak. They offer Texas pasture raised beef without any antibiotics, hormones, or chemicals. They offer a variety of cuts for you home chefs. If you enjoy grilling, this is the company to order your steak from, folks. They offer steak delivery directly to your home. Check them out at www.primal-steak.com. Once again, primal-steak.com. I guarantee you'll like it. Edda, on that note, what is a net zero hospital? This is also kind of a term that's new to me. And why is it important?
Yeah, that's in a way also new speciality that evolved over the past years. Yeah, and also quite frightening frightening is the fact that the healthcare sector is a huge contributor to climate change. And there's one old saying, Greek saying, first do no harm as doctors. That's our oath. And in a way, by inducing climate change and increasing climate change, we do harm a lot, and that needs to change. And the healthcare sector currently contributes with 5.2% to the climate crisis and to emissions. And it also increased after COVID from 4.4. So there is also steady growth of emissions in the healthcare sector. And the solution to that is really creating a net zero healthcare system or net zero hospitals, and in a way act as leaders and role models for other disciplines. Because in a way, what we want to do, we really want to increase the well-being and the health of people. And currently, well, we try and we are trying our best to do it, but we are also counteracting that with our emissions. And one model is really to create net zero hospitals and net zero healthcare worldwide. And there are different approaches and different projects and different countries that engage more and countries that engage less. But in a way, we want to reduce the emissions, the scope 1, that's the scope emissions that come derives from a hospital. And scope 2 is really all the energy, for example, that we buy from other sources. And scope 3 emissions, the major emissions, and this comes from our supply chain. And it really depends a bit on the country, but currently the supply chain emissions are quite high with 60, 70, 75%. And that's also a challenge to reduce those emissions. So in a way, a lot of hospitals are currently dealing to reduce scope 1 and 2 emissions. That's definitely possible. And there are also positive examples worldwide and successful examples that really have reduced their scope 1 and 2 emission. There is a country really dealing with it, a whole healthcare system, for example, the UK. They definitely have a specific plan how they can reduce a scope 1 and 2 emission till 2035, and they have developed specific targets, and they're also measuring the targets. So, it's a challenge, but it's also ongoing, and there are also positive examples worldwide.
Yeah, very impressive, Edda. Thank you for breaking that down. Shifting gears, Edda, I know that you're extensively involved in Rwanda. Now, in the West, most people remember Rwanda as having the civil war in the early 90s. I think we all remember the movie Hotel Rwanda. Unfortunately, many people died in the civil war between the Hutus and the Tutsis, as I remember. But Rwanda has sort of become a beacon of light for other African nations, and they've really turned things around. Edda, what is your involvement with the My Rwanda Healthcare and Research Center, and how are you involved with that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I'm the CEO of the Rwanda Healthcare and Research Center that's located in Kigali. And interestingly, I was approached by a headhunter that asked me, "Are you interested to work in Rwanda?" And I said, "Yeah, well, I didn't know so much about the research center and the healthcare center because we are currently building it. But I was very intrigued by the idea to move and experience Rwanda. And Rwanda is really a role model, not only for Africa, also for other countries, I think even for the world.
Wow.
It's a big word, but I can explain it a bit. So, as you mentioned, Rwanda had that genocide 30 years ago, and they also celebrated it. Well, commemorated, it's the better term, this year. And there's a constant push from the government to remember the population and the world, what happened 30 years ago. And there are a lot of efforts underway that's things like that definitely in Rwanda are not going to happen again. But on the other side, Rwanda also had an interesting development over the past 20 years, I would say. So even in 2008, for example, they abandoned plastic bags. And
Hmm.
I think it's, when you just think about it, it's in a way a very small thing to do, but for other countries, just not possible to show that leadership. So Rwanda is super clean. I think that's one of the cleanest countries that I've ever seen and experienced. And it's in the middle of Africa. So when you travel to other African countries, for example, Kenya is a bordering country, or Congo, or Burundi, or even Uganda, it's very different there. And they are doing a lot of super innovative environmental things there. And that was, I think, the main reason, honestly, to accept the offer and go to Rwanda and experience Rwanda and Kigali. And it was definitely an interesting experience because I have so many things implemented. We are just talking about, for example, car-free Sundays, yeah,
Hmm.
and people are really celebrating that when there are no cars on the road, and they do sports and interact with their neighbors and cycle on the roads that are otherwise very busy and very crowded. And then they also have community days once a month for 3 hours. So in a way, everybody participate or gives 3 hours of his time to the community. And one of the last actions were really, for example, planting trees. And they just also bring the neighborhood together. It's not only an environmental thing and engaging in environmental issues, but also creating a community spirit. Or, for example, introducing electric motorbikes in Kigali. And from January onwards, so that's in 2.5 weeks, all new motorbikes have to be electric. And there are
Hmm.
no other motorbikes allowed, new motorbikes allowed in Kigali, for example. So these are things you think that should be possible to introduce and implement it in other countries, but currently Rwanda is one of the few countries that is able to do it.
That's fascinating, Edda, because in the United States, we still haven't banned plastic bags, you know? And what a foreign concept. You
Yeah.
mentioned car free Sundays, right? Is that what you said
Mm,
in Rwanda? And
exactly.
that's on a national level?
That's, yeah, well, there's just one big city or metropolitan area. So it's
Mhm.
currently just in Kigali, and it's done by the Minister of Sports.
Hmm.
And it's done twice a month. Well, in a way, every second week, and it's a celebration. Yeah, it's really a celebration, and people just love it. And when you would talk about, for example, in Europe, not even thinking about South Africa and other countries, just having a car-free Sunday, everybody would just say it's not possible. But they really show the world what's possible, and that people enjoy it, and that it really also increases well-being, lifestyle, and quality of life.
Great. Edda, Rwanda has one of the few healthcare systems in Africa with universal access to healthcare. And I believe all citizens are able to obtain healthcare insurance for $2 a year. How did they achieve this monumental step?
Yeah, it definitely has something to do with the government and with the president of Rwanda, and he does a lot of things that are really good for the country and for the people. And one of those things is universal access to health care or coverage. And it's
Is it
amazing.
is it really true that it's $2 per year? I could not believe that when I read that. Is that true?
It's more per month, but
Okay.
still very cheap.
I mean,
It's really
$2 a month.
super.
That's
Yeah,
that's extremely cheap.
yeah, I think that's really cheap. And yeah, when you just try to compare to the US dollars from the Rwandan francs, but it's really cheap, and you can really obtain good healthcare. And they are doing a lot to improve healthcare in Rwanda and in Kigali. And it's not without a reason that a US company and Californian company like Zipline had their first enterprise there and first company and first successful project in Rwanda and not in the States. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of Zipline, that's interesting. So how has Rwanda sort of partnered with Zipline using drone technology to improve healthcare?
Yeah, interestingly, I went to a conference in last year in Chicago, and there the CEO of Zipline gave a talk there. And he mentioned at that time, I didn't know that I'm going to Rwanda. Yeah, but I was really fascinated by the presentation, and he also showed a lot of pictures. And I'm also closely connected now to Zipline because we are doing some research there regarding healthcare and healthcare delivery. And interestingly, I heard from Zipline, the idea was they wanted to implement Zipline in the States, and they were not allowed to do that. So he went to Switzerland to the Economic Forum, Davos, and presented Zipline. And there he met the president of Rwanda. And then the president approached him and said, why are you not coming to Rwanda? And he was very surprised and said, Rwanda, where's Rwanda?
Wow.
And finally, he was really convinced to come. And then he said, yeah, but you have to come within soon. And said, yeah, well, within the next 6 months. And finally had to establish the first company there within 3 months. That was a deadline that was given by the government.
I
So
see.
you know how Rwanda and the government works. So it has to happen instantly. So not in the future. The future is now. It's really a success story. I visited Zipline a couple of times, and it's absolutely fascinating. So currently they have two drone centers in the east and in the west, and they're currently also establishing a third one in the city that has to be done technically a little bit different because of the challenges and the airport close by. But for example, when they want to deliver vaccines or medication or blood, you know, even blood, to remote hospitals. And Rwanda is known as the country of the thousand, I always say, of the million hills. So you go up and down and up and down, up and down. So it really takes hours. So for 100 kilometers, you can travel 3 hours for 3 hours. So you can deliver, for example, blood in 15, 20, 25 minutes to distances of 400 kilometers in a way within no
Amazing.
time. Yeah. And that also reduces a lot of the carbon emissions, because you can imagine how much carbon and fuel you use when you just drive to that hospital. And it really saves lives. There's no doubt about it. And they also did some research on that.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was reading some of their case studies on
Yeah.
just, delivering blood with drones to, let's say, a pregnant woman who's just
Yeah.
hemorrhaging during
Yeah.
labor,
Mm.
and they need blood, and they can get blood to them within, like you said, 15, 20 minutes
Yeah.
versus 4 hours.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's fantastic that
Yeah.
Rwanda has taken that initiative and Zipline is actually there doing it.
Mm. And it's really fascinating to see it and watch it, and how well they're organized and how well it works. And yeah, it's eye opening. It's really worth seeing.
Right, right. Yeah. So, on that note, Edda, what's been the biggest surprise you've had in the last few months or years in your specialty?
Yeah, in a way, it really links and relates to Rwanda. I think the biggest surprise really was that with very little resources, you can still do a lot when you do have the governmental leadership. And because there's so much complaints in high income countries that there's never enough money to do things that are important. And Rwanda really shows the way that it still can be done if the leadership really wants it, and if the top leadership is there to do it. And they can overcome all the challenges that also other countries face. And yeah, it's fascinating to see it and experience it.
Yeah, you said it best. It's all up to the leadership. What are some of the things that excite you the most right now in your field?
Yeah, in my field, just looking, for example, just in my personal field where I'm working, that Rwanda is really, yeah, doing a lot for their people, and Kigali is evolving as a digital capital in Africa, and that they are having a lot of projects in parallel and driving them all together. For example, currently they're building a health city there, Masaka Health City. So they're building a new university hospital. They have just established an institute for endoscopic surgery as a training institute for Africa. Then there is also the Robert Koch Institute from the German government, who that currently also builds a new infection award there. And then there's this research center and heart center we are currently building. So this all happens in parallel. So they are not waiting to complete one project, they're doing it all together.
I see. I see. Great.
Mm.
Edda, what are some of your interests outside the hospital? How do you like to decompress? I know you're a very busy person, and how does Edda like to decompress?
Well, as you might imagine, I think what's really good for our mental health or for my mental health is just spending time in nature. So whenever I can, I really try to spend time in nature and experience nature because we are so disconnected from nature. And it also gives me strength, an environment to reflect and to empower. And one of the most interesting experiences I had over the past months, as you have asked, was really spending, for example, a week in the wilderness in Timbavati, that's close to the Kruger Park in South Africa.
Ah,
And we were in a way, it was a family outing. So I went there with my family. So we were 6 people and 2 guides and spent 1 week in the bush. And that was absolutely fascinating to do because I love to be outside and I also love to be close to wild animals. And it's very different if you see an elephant or a giraffe or rhino, I don't know, 10
hmm.
meters or 20 meters away from you and have to behave in the right way that you can just watch them and that they do not feel threatened by you. And it's also interesting, to sleep outside under the stars and to keep watch and night watch and be responsible for your group. In a way, you also have to show a lot of leadership to do that.
Well,
And the impact, for example, from the safaris we know currently, well, we drive with this big 4x4 vehicles through the wilderness, but that also means that a lot of small animal insects are killed when we are driving through the roads.
mhm. What a great experience, Edda, to be outside in nature.
And it was a low impact or the low impact experience we had. And it's a lot of giving back also to nature and experience nature in a very different way. So that's one way to do it.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's very courageous of you too to be outside the safari truck and just walk through the park. That's very courageous of you. So, what's an interesting fact that you can tell the listeners about Cape Town, South Africa?
Yeah, Cape Town. Well, Cape Town is definitely an amazing place. I love most about Cape Town that you're also very close to nature. So when I walk out of the house, I can just go up the mountain. I think that's absolutely stunning to do that. So I see the mountain when I wake up in the morning, and that's the last view I have when after sunset, and even be able to walk there and hike there and be outside and enjoy the beautiful views from Table Mountain. And interestingly, it's so nice to do it because people are lazy. So they rather go up Table Mountain by the cable with a cable car, and they don't really walk there. So when you go out there, you are on your own. Even on Christmas Day or on Easter, you are there on your own and can just experience nature, on your own, and have a very special experience every time I go there. So it's always different when I'm out there.
Yeah, definitely. I can attest. Cape Town is probably one of the most beautiful cities that I've traveled to.
Mm.
You guys have just a beautiful backdrop, with, like you said, Table Mountain and then also the ocean.
Yeah.
It is very unique.
Yeah, and the contrast between the mountains and the ocean and the sea, and I also love the people here, I must say. I really like the people.
That's right. Well, thank you so much, Edda, for your time and being a guest on MD Roundtable. Keep doing the great work you do in South Africa, Rwanda, and Europe. It's been a pleasure, Edda.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. Thanks for the interview. And yeah, thanks for the interest.
Of course, my pleasure. Take care. Have a good day.
Take care. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Folks, if you enjoyed that episode, don't forget to leave a review of MD Roundtable Podcast, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to reach out to me with any comments or questions, feel free to go ahead and email me at drtedthatchandcarey@gmail.com. Once again, Dr. Ted thatchandcarey@gmail.com. I will also leave the email contact in my show notes. Thank you again for joining me. Have a great day.